Sedimentary rocks. Here we go. Let's start with this. How do sedimentary rocks form? Well, you have, like, say, igneous rock, weathering and erosion, or even from metamorphic rocks. Weathering and erosion will lead to sediments. Sediments, you can think of things like pebbles, sand, silt, clay, loose sediments. And what does it take for those to become sedimentary rocks? Well, they need to be deposited somewhere, usually the bottom of a body of water, the ocean, let's say, and then buried more on top of it to put the weight on top of it. That provides, then it needs to be compacted and cemented together. That's what it takes for them to become lithified, which means becoming a rock, and then you get sedimentary rocks. In this case, what I'm referring to are clastic sedimentary rocks. That means pieces of other rocks, again, pebbles and sand and gravel and silt and clay. Those are the traditional, what we think of as sedimentary rocks, clastic. There are other kinds that we'll get to. So this is a good example of a clastic sedimentary rock. You see rounded pebbles, and then they are cemented together. Here is a close-up of it. You can see rounded pebbles, and the cement holds it together. That's how you really can tell that it is a sedimentary rock, or pieces of other rocks that are then cemented together, as opposed to interlocking crystals that you have in more metamorphic and igneous rocks. This is how it's shown on the Regis examining time. So this is like a drawn diagram. They're trying to represent it. You get the sense of what I just said. And this is a photograph they have of rounded pebbles cemented together. So this is how it may be presented to you on the Regis exam. On page 7 of the reference table, this is the sedimentary rock chart. You see the map symbols here. That's also important. But these are the clastic ones. And it actually says fragmental there. That's actually a tip if you're ever going through to help remember that. Fragments of other rocks. And it has... these are the types of clastic sedimentary rocks, and they go from smaller grain size to larger. So shale, siltstone, sandstone, breccia, conglomerate are all clastic sedimentary rocks, compacted and cemented. So another type of sedimentary rocks, and this is get a little more complicated for students, I think, are crystalline sedimentary rocks. They're also called evaporites, and they form from the process of precipitation of a mineral from a liquid. And my example here is rock salt. The sedimentary rock salt forms when salt water evaporates, and ocean evaporates, and the water goes into the air, but all of the salt or the halite crystals will actually become solid and go down to the bottom of the ocean. And you can get thick layers of salt. That's called an evaporite, and that's evaporite sedimentary rock or crystalline sedimentary rocks. And you see them on the reference table here. Okay, so the texture here is crystalline. And the examples that we're going to use are rock salt, rock gypsum, dolostone. Those are a little harder to tell when you have them in your hand. They're not as obvious sedimentary rocks as these. The other type of sedimentary rock are bioclastic. Okay, bio means life and clastic means fragments. So it's fragments of things that were once living. So they're composed of pieces of once living organisms. So this is an example of coal, and this is an early stage of coal, and it's basically dead plants compressed together. That's what coal is. Again, bioclastic sedimentary rock. Here's another one, is a type of limestone called coquina. And this is from a bunch of shells that are compacted and cemented together. Look at this close-up here, you really can see. So you get the idea of bioclastic, once living, pieces of things that were once living, bioclastic. Where we see them on the reference table are here. Coal is bioclastic, and limestone can be either, okay? So these are our examples of bioclastic. That's a little tour of the reference table and the basics of sedimentary rocks for our purposes. Here are some questions. So given, it says this is a classic sedimentary rock. In the description, it was in there. Which observation about this rock best supports this classification of it being a classic sedimentary rock? And the answer is the rock contains fragments of other rocks. Okay, so this is the types of questions that we often see on the exam regarding sedimentary rocks. Here's another one. Given, it says the diagram shows rock composed of cemented pebbles and sand, and this is their representation of it. And the question is, this rock should be classified as, and the answer is a clastic sedimentary rock. So that's just some of the basics of sedimentary rocks.